Okay, I'm signing into this live stream right now to just talk. This is pre-recorded, by the way, to discuss a certain topic with a high school friend. We're just going to be talking about the social innovation and impact, community development, and the way forward, especially for developing countries like Nigeria. Social innovation and impact, community development, and the way forward for developing countries like Nigeria. So I'm going to be joined shortly by Shola Olisa. Okay, Israel Shola Olisa is going to be joining me shortly, and we're going to get this live stream on the way. So just be patient. He's going to be joining shortly. The whole idea of this live stream came about just linking up with a friend, a high school friend. He was a junior, subordinate when I was back in a Canadian Education Center. But right now, we're coming together to have a conversation about this and see if we can reach a resolve. So, Shola, what's up? How are you doing, man?
True bling, true bling.
How life now? How life, my guy?
We bless God. God has
Oh,
been
okay.
good.
That's
God has been good.
I didn't think this was gonna happen, man. I seriously, I had so much errands to run, but I was like, nah, I already committed to you. I gotta make this happen, So let's freaking go, let's make it happen. You know.
Yep, same here, same here, same here. It's good to see you. Good to see you
Good to see you
live.
too. I was like, man, if I miss this opportunity, this dude is gonna be disappointed. He's gonna scream. So yeah, so I had to make it for you, man. Because part of adulthood is just keeping to commitments, no matter how convenient it might be. You just have to honor your commitments, and I just wanted to do that for you. So about the topic we're talking about today, we're talking about just social. I remember social innovation and impact. So I just wanted you to take the lead when you mean like social innovations and impact. What do you mean by that? Because you see, where we come from, we're an English speaking country and things can easily be misconstrued and words can be lost in translation. So I just want you to just give people that will listen to this an idea what you mean by that.
Thank you so much, True Bling. And it's really a pleasure, to be here with you on this platform.
Same, likewise.
Yeah. So talking about social innovation, it's a combination of two important words, social and innovation.
Yeah.
So social basically talks about human engagement,
Okay.
how people interact, how they connect, and what they do. And then innovation, of course, is, doing something in a new way, like coming up with creative, innovative, new ideas, Um, and social innovation usually is used in the context of community development, So when you bring all of that together, social innovation, then we can say means, how people can collaborate, how people can link up, come together, come up with new ways of thinking, new ideologies, new concepts, conceptualize new ideas on how they can move themselves forward as a people, as a community.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so as brothers in arms, it's good to connect and talk about stuff like this, put heads together, and then see, yeah, ways of collaborating.
Okay. Okay. On a social level, of course.
Yeah.
So when I think of the social innovations and the impact, I think of because when you think of social, you think of society.
Yeah.
You think of where the human being exists in his natural form, right? So for us to be looking for social innovation, that must mean that past ways have failed us, correct?
No. So I see society as a very dynamic environment,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And yeah, so because we live in a constantly changing world,
Okay.
we have to evolve. We have to, we have to, yeah, be very intentional about our what's it called now, our own response, to the dynamic nature of the world that we live in. It's not something that we have power or control over that we can stop. So we have to factor that into whatever it is that we're doing. Yeah, so
So I just want to establish like a framework of this conversation.
okay.
What would you say will be the goal to getting this engagement in this conversation, right? What would you want people to take away? What is the objective? Let's say we engage one another. What would be the end goal? What would be the evidence that this social innovation has taken place? And what would the impact be? Like, what would it look like in the real world?
That's an interesting question. So, yeah, putting it in simple terms, I think a lot of times we spend a lot of time criticizing government. We spend a lot of time, yeah, just talking about the ills in society, the things that are not going well, focusing on the problems, you know. So how about we shift conversation from talking about the problems to talking about the solutions? And as a people, right, we are the direct beneficiaries of this system, whether it works or it doesn't work, if it's good or bad, you know. Folks in government, they pretty much developed a system to take care of themselves, right?
Okay.
So we as a people should shift conversation from problem
To
to
solution.
solution-oriented conversations. And instead of looking outward for solutions, when we have these platforms where we can talk about solutions amongst ourselves, then we look inwards
Okay.
and yeah, come up with innovative or innovations that works for us.
Okay. So based on what I'm getting from you, right? You just you kind of buttressed my point. Based on what you're saying, the past systems have failed us because we were so focused on the problems. Because that's something we're very known for in Nigeria. Just talking about what the problems are: fuel scarcity, lack of food, price gouging, all this kind of stuff, right? But what you're saying right now is that social innovation and the impact that's going to come out of it will look something like people putting their heads together to divert the attention from the government onto themselves and bounce ideas of each other to come up with a solution.
Yep. So yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about. But I would also say social innovation does not only take place in developing countries or yeah, developing countries
But in this
where the
conversation, we're
system
focusing on
where the system
developing countries. Yeah.
yes,
Mhm.
because we are from, that's where
Nigeria
we're from.
specifically, exactly.
Exactly. But I'm just saying in a broader context. So whether it's in the global north,
Hmm.
where we are, or in the global south, where we come from, social innovation happens kind of every day.
Okay.
People are always looking for better ways to
To
do
solve their
whatever
problem.
it is that they are doing now.
Okay.
We live
Okay.
in a dynamic world, and that change continues to happen.
Okay. Based on what I just gathered from you, we came to the conclusion that the past ways have failed, kind of, or not even that it has failed, just beating the dead horse makes no sense anymore. We need to now solve our problems because depending on the government has not solved the problem. Can we
Right,
agree on that? Okay, good.
right.
So now, if we can now divert our attention away from government, because taking from principles like, say, a country like United States, where the country was built on the backs of the citizens because they asked themselves not what America could do for them, what they could do for America. So you're trying to reverse that question, saying, ask not what Nigerian can do for you, but what you can do for Nigeria or any African country. You could just plug in any African country's name there, and that applies to the same. Ask not what Zimbabwe can do for you, but what you can do for Zimbabwe, correct? So in that case, that means that the past ways have failed, right? There's some good old ways, such as our culture, right? The Yoruba culture, the Hausa culture, the Igbo culture, and every other culture in between. Okay, they're good aspects of these cultures, right? So, what it would look like at the end of the day, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just trying to pick your brain here to understand, like, what is the dynamic? Where are we going with this? So, what it would look like is, for example, on a street, right? Say, for example, on a street where there's no NEPA or National Electric Power Authority. That's the Nigerian version. So there's no electricity. So no, I'm trying to pick your brain to figure out if I'm thinking of this in the right perspective, right? So in a street, right, where there's no electricity, so people come together and say, okay, there's no government coming to save us. We've waited for the past 23 years, right? Why don't we come together, put our purses together, and support? So would you think of it this way? Support this young man that has a bright future in building something that could power supply? Or are you thinking of it from the dynamic of let's put our money together and build a powerhouse that could supply electricity to our specific unit? What dimension are you thinking about this? Because the way when I think of it, I want an innovative approach. Because remember, you said it's social innovation, right? I want something that can lead to industrialization. I just don't want like a solution where we're still dependent on somebody else. Let me know how you're thinking about this.
Yeah, 100%. So you hit the nail on the head. Either ways, that's social. I would consider that to be social innovation.
Okay.
Okay. So essentially, we are talking about ideas that are coming out of the community themselves.
Okay.
And the communities are taking ownership of these ideas, this innovation, these interventions, whatever it is you want to call it, it's coming from the community themselves. And they are taking ownership for implementation.
Okay.
Yes. So it's organic and it's sustainable.
But going back to my question, right? There's two versions to this solution. Innovation is different from solving a problem. Innovation is when the problem is solved intrinsically. Problem solving is when the problem is solved extrinsically. Let me explain. Like, for example, the community puts their money together and say, let's import a generator from China, or let's fix our transformer, right? So you see, once they bring that transformer from China, let's say they put their money together, they buy a transformer, and now they solve their temporary problem. Shola, you admit to me, you can admit that on the long term, this is not a permanent fix. Compared to when there's an innovative individual that can lead to industrialization, like say, for example, a guy that can build something like a power supply. Like, I don't know if you heard about the boy that harnessed the wind, some guy in Rwanda or Uganda, something like that, where they could build a windmill. And now we could support this guy and say, why don't you go to Ukraine? Why don't you go to Poland? Why don't you go to United States and go study? When you're done, you come back, preventing brain drain, come back and let's see how we can use you to empower other young people and let's solve this problem permanently. So so what scenario are you talking about?
Yeah, so 100%. I see it as, as on a scale, right? Okay. And what you're saying, 100% is social innovation. We call it community agency. So this is knowledge, that is from within the community, that is being used to solve the community's problem, right? So in the example you're talking about, an individual who has skills that can benefit the community in that power generation perspective. And then the community coming together, to support him, to scale his efforts and get real impact. Right? So that's a very good example. However, the other one you used, I would still consider it social innovation from the perspective of a paradigm shift from relying on government to, relying on, their own efforts and local capacity. So that's a different way of thinking.
So the way I'm understanding it is that one way you're being part of the solution in addition to the government, and in another way, the people are becoming not just part of the solution, but a permanent fix to their societal issues.
Exactly. So people are not just being passive members of their community.
Yes.
They are becoming active citizens. They are becoming more engaged, more involved. Because they are at the receiving end. They they are the ones, when the system fails, when it's broken, they are the ones that suffer the most.
Okay.
So rather than just sulking and just talking about these things for donkey years, let's, become active. Let's come together. Let's look inward. Let's see how we can, when we come together, we are stronger.
Yes.
And just that coming together alone opens up a realm of possibilities
Okay.
that individually we cannot see.
Okay. Okay. Um, I want to ask you a question. Culturally, right? Based on our culture, where we come from, because Africans are very indigenous people. Our culture is something that keeps us grounded. But as a conquered people, because we're conquered people, because we've been colonized, right? What role do you think colonization will play into preventing because you talk about social innovation and the impact, and then you talk about community development. So I'm thinking that social innovation has to happen first before community development can progress, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, what role do you think the mindset of the people will play in speeding up or slowing down this process?
Yeah, so that's another interesting question. The mind, I see the mind as a powerhouse.
Okay.
That's kind of where everything flows from.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that you use the word conquered people.
Yes.
So obviously we cannot downplay the effects of colonization.
Okay. Yes.
Post-colonial areas, countries that were colonized are still suffering from, this mindset.
The effects, yes.
Yes, the effect. And for lack of better word, these and other related terms is what I
Mhm.
what I refer to as poverty of the mind.
That's right.
Yeah, and so it's one thing to not have money,
Yes.
to not have physical, financial means and resources to achieve goals. But
Mm-hmm.
then again, poverty can also be of the mind that keeps you, in a state of redundancy, unproductivity, that constrains you basically. So that 100% is something that needs to be worked on.
Okay.
But then again, that's where leadership also now plays a critical role. So if our leaders are able to lead properly, lead by example, give us the right leadership, then it becomes easy to overcome that curve.
Well, I have to
Right.
stop you. I have to stop you there because our leaders are the people. The people don't come from the forest or from another country. The people are the ones that end up becoming the leaders. The leaders don't come from abroad. They are local people. So one of the things I will have to say is that banking on the leaders to become who we need them to be is counterintuitive. It goes against what we're trying to converse about here because we're talking about social innovation. We're
Which
taking
is
we're taking the power away from the government and vesting the power on the people to solve our own problem. Because if the government was already doing their job, we wouldn't even need the social innovation because the government will be spearheading the social innovation. So what I
so
was
leadership. So leadership does
yes,
not rest with government alone.
yes, I agree
In
with
your
that.
fa in your family, you are the leader
Yes,
in your family,
that's right.
So there are different levels as well to leadership.
Okay.
And in every community, we have to have leaders. That's just how the system works. That's how we are, the structure,
What,
that's the structure.
so what?
So we have religious leaders, we have
Mhm.
business leaders, we
Yes.
have, leaders in the public sector and the private sector. So, leaders in government is just one category,
Okay.
you know. And yeah, so even down to the smallest unit of the society,
Which
which
is
is the
family.
family,
Mhm.
yes, we still have leaders. So there's heavy responsibility on leaders in general, to help us achieve the limitations of this mindset of the poverty that we are talking about earlier, you know.
So my question for you is this, right? The leadership framework we have right now, because I don't want to just I don't want this conversation to go astray. I want to keep it contained, right?
Okay,
Do
okay.
you think we have the proper leadership framework? When I mean framework, right? Think of a car. Once you throw away the chassis, if you want to rebuild that car, let's say you melt the metal, you have to build a new car. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, say you take a Benz 500 and you melt the frame, right? You cannot get a Benz 500 anymore. You have to build a new one. But if you have a Benz 500 and you just change the tire, you change the seats, you change the engine, you change the gas tank, you still have a Benz 500, correct? What do you think needs to happen? Do you think, if you look at our leadership in Nigeria as the Benz 500, do you think we need to change the engine, or do you think we need to look at it introspectively as we need to melt the whole chassis of the Benz 500 and build a new form or base form of a new Benz 500, which is a new leadership? Benz 500 in this figure of speech is leadership, right? So do you think we just need to change the engine on this Benz 500 over here that hasn't worked for us since you and I were kids? Or do we need to take the framework of this Benz 500, put it into molten metal, melt the frame, and then build a new type of framework of maybe a monster bulletproof Benz 500 that actually works for what we're trying to do? Maybe not even Benz 500, maybe a super Peugeot, or maybe a super G-Wagon or something like that. Something that works for us. Because remember, there's something unique about Africa. We are an indigenous people. We think differently. We take very strong honor and pride in our culture. Do you think that we need to take the Benz 500 engine change approach, or do we need to take melt the whole frame, destroy the whole car, build a new frame of leadership approach to be able to handle what we need as Africans, having in mind our colonial past?
Okay. So another very interesting question. And I kind of feel like you already have a strong opinion.
To be honest with you, I don't. I have an insight because this is our experience.
Okay.
If we want our children to be Nigerians or Igbo or Yoruba, or whatever we want them to be, we have to create the experience. This thing does not happen just out of thin air. Someone creates it. If you think about this Benz 500 example that I gave you, someone creates that experience. And then if you think of the other angle I gave you, where we melt the whole frame, use the metal to build something that works for us, it's someone that creates that too. So I'm just asking you, what framework do you think that we need to apply this social innovation so that we have this community development that is the final goal?
Okay, beautiful. So I think that the current framework we have does not work for us. And that's, partly why we are where we are today, because we've borrowed concepts that we did not contextualize, or we did not, we did not, we didn't factor in our own cultural context when we're borrowing some of this content, some of these frameworks. So a very good example of it is democracy. And so we are seeing that increasingly people are asking all over the world, does democracy work? Right? And we are seeing in sub-Saharan Africa, we are seeing that there's coups taking place, people are rising up and they are sacking their political leaders, and military men are taking, they're taking over government.
Yes.
It's a scourge that is spreading gradually. And increasingly, the youths in Africa are asking that question, does democracy work? Yes. And bringing it back home to Nigeria, I would say one of the fundamental problems we have is that perhaps we could say that we've been lying to ourselves for so long. We've swept very critical issues under the carpet, and thinking that time will just heal wounds, or time will just fix things, or things will just some way, somehow miraculously just snap in place, right? And to be more specific, there's a statement in our constitution that says, we the people.
Whose constitution?
The Constitution of Nigeria, you
Do
know,
you- but
yes, was premised on a statement that says we the people.
but you know the democracy that is being spread around the world is not peculiar. It's not foundational to the African people.
I know, so that's
The,
what I'm saying is
I'm just gonna
borrowed.
I'm just gonna answer that question for you real quickly, right? The youth are asking the question, does democracy work? The answer is no. Let's cut through let's cut
Yeah,
straight.
yeah, well, I'm going there.
Okay, go
I'm
ahead.
going,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm going there. So the state the Constitution of Nigeria, for example, is premised on that statement that says we the people.
Yes,
But in real actual fact, the people never gathered.
that's right.
The people never met
Yes.
to agree on a constitution, on a framework
Okay,
for governance.
that's right.
So this was just some elite or power brokers and critical
Yeah,
stakeholders in the
a
system
government of
just come.
a government of the few.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So that in itself are some of the things that citizens engagement ought to solve. There should be, a way for us to meet together as a people, to address critical issues, in our communities, right? And so that's one. Secondly, there are conversations along the direction of representative democracy, deliberative democracy. In Nigeria, I think we practice, representative democracy to a very large extent. But then
Uh, let me
those that
let me cut you short. Okay, the conversation is going left. Name one factor, one thing, the colonial mind factor that is inhibiting. Remember, the subject here is social innovation and
right,
its impact for community development.
right.
Name one factor that you believe, if you think of Nigeria and its entirety, or you look at let's focus on Nigeria, because that's where we come from. That's the country we love. That's the land area we occupy. Name one factor that has been instilled in us, whether through colonialism or just from the past, from our ancestors, that is holding us back right now from overachieving when it comes to this social innovation. Is there any one factor that comes to mind?
What that easily comes to mind is aid.
Aid,
Aid, yes.
like foreign
So
aid.
foreign aid.
Okay.
So as not just in Nigeria, all over Africa, you see that we are heavily dependent on aid.
Okay.
And just today, I was watching a video, I think, on Arise News where,
Mm-hmm.
some youths were coming together to protest and to ask that Donald Trump comes to Nigeria to come and save us. So there's that mindset of always looking up or looking out.
Out. Mm-hmm.
Yes, thinking that help is going to come from outside
Okay.
and I think it's still part of the poverty of the mind mindset and an effect of, colonization.
Okay. Let me give you my opinion on that real quickly.
Mm.
Have you ever thought of the fact that maybe religion is holding us back in Africa? Let me explain. Okay, in the 1800s, there was a man called Tokyo. Okay, Japanese culture, Christianity was brought into Japanese culture and it almost ruined them as a society. So a man named Toyota monitored and sent out emissaries to just look at what's going on in Japanese culture because they had this mindset, because that's what democracy and Western civilization does to you. It has you dependent on somebody superior to come to your aid. And you're wrong about aid because actually the aid is forced on Africa. Remember, Captain Ibrahim Traore, they were forcing him to take aid and he rejected because the aid is a tool to infiltrate governments, right? So
Captain Chari is an exception.
no, no, no.
He's an
I'm not
exception.
using him, but
He's an
I'm
exception.
not trying to use him as the rule. I'm just
Mhm.
giving you an outlier. He's an outlier.
Tell me
So,
another
so,
African leader who
so,
has rejected aid.
but you see, it's because they cannot reject it. That's my point. So going back to what I was saying, right? Tokyo
Mhm.
came in and observed his people and saw that his people were so dependent on this so-called Christianity.
And what it has done to them is that it's made them so weak that they cannot solve their own problems because they are reliant on an external God to help solve their problem. So Tokyo implemented one thing that the Japanese hated so much back then, but they love him for today. They loved him so much that they named the capital of Japan after him. What he did was that he got rid of Christianity. He banned Christianity, and the people that would not agree to solve their own problem and let go of Christianity, they were eliminated. Some of them were outcasts, they were set out of the country. And look at Japan today. Any product that comes out of Japan is the most premium product, like it's second to none in the world. I think it's time for Africans to take responsibility and stop all this Jesus nonsense. We need to stop this Christianity nonsense, and we just need to know that heaven is here on earth. Only man can build it. We can either come socially to innovate and reap the rewards of the impact and build a community, right? And build a community where we can leave this thing that we've built for our children. You see, that's why I gave you the option of the difference between importing the transformer from China or supporting a young man that can come and build it in-house so we can build factories where we can crank out transformers. I think that our religious beliefs or dependence on external cultures like Islam, Christianity, Judaism is one of the biggest factors that would hinder this social innovation. What do you think?
Interesting perspective, Chukwuma. So I think many people make a big mistake not being able to differentiate between religion and spirituality.
Okay.
So religion, I would agree is a problem.
Okay.
And someone rightly called it the opium of the masses.
Facts.
And we've seen the how it could be spawned to pursue selfish interest. We see that happening all over the world, right? That's for religion. However, spirituality, for lack of a better word, I use spirituality. So spirituality is different.
Okay.
And spirituality answers some very critical questions.
Okay.
As far as I understand and I'm concerned. So
just for somebody watching, could you quickly tell us, we have about less than 9 minutes, okay, to round up. Well, quickly, what is the difference between religion and spirituality, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So as a human being, we are tripartite in nature. We have a body, we have a soul, we have a spirit.
Okay.
And this has been established. This is something we cannot change.
Okay.
Right. Now, the body will eventually give up, or the body will eventually fade away. But there's an inner part of man that lives forever.
Okay.
That's the spirit.
Okay.
And the way I kind of understand the relationship between these three parts is right now there where you're sitting, you have a light, you have a bulb in your room that is lighting up that space, right?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so the actual physical part of that light bulb is the body.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
And then there is electricity that powers that bulb. That electricity is the spirit.
Okay.
It's invisible. You can't see it. But it gets to that bulb. The bulb is designed in such a way that it takes that energy brought by the electricity and then produces light. That light is the soul kind of man. That's the expression.
Okay. So based on what you're saying, the spirituality is tied into the mind, and religion is more like man-made and is just a code of conduct.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So how does this tie into how we can achieve this social innovation? How do we tie it up all nicely together?
So talking about the mind, religion can be a drawback, but spirituality, when properly understood, essentially just talks about loving your brother as yourself. So, for example, the Bible in Matthew chapter 7, verse 12 talks about the golden rule, which is what I live by every day, which is love whatever you want your neighbor to do to you, do also to him. It's a guiding principle. It's a framework that solves that, puts you in the right frame of mind, to solve many problems.
Okay.
Whatever I want you to do,
Mhm.
what to me, do the same. That's kind of what, spirituality can do for you.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, we all function based on our belief system.
What do you think is
The-
what do you think is the role of the father of the men in all this, in achieving this social innovation so that we can see meaningful results, so we can build a community development? What do you think is the role of men in the form of father, family? Can you tie it up real nicely so we can end with that?
The role of the man is to provide vision, to
Okay.
provide leadership, and of course, a very good example. And we also see that, and that could become a pattern, a generational pattern,
Yes.
which now brings or ensures sustainability.
But you see, Nigerians are already doing well in that pattern. Nigerian fathers are some of the best fathers, right? What
100%, 100%. I wouldn't doubt.
so the question is, why are we not getting results? What would you say is the reason why we're not getting results? Because Charlotte, remember, in the beginning of this conversation, I premised everything I was saying by the fact that the leaders are selected from the people, and we still have problems.
So,
If we get rid of the leaders, we're still going to have problems because
no.
if we
So the
take the people,
singular,
if we take the
because of
people,
time,
go ahead.
Chukwuma, the singular most important problem with Nigeria and Africa, well, let me just limit it to Nigeria, is what I call our leadership recruitment process.
Okay.
Our leadership recruitment process.
Okay.
So the best of us, or those that have the capacity to actually ensure that these things work for everybody, that there's development, there's progress, some way, somehow, the system is already designed to screen them out.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, the folks that get in there by natural selection don't have anything to offer. And as long as we continue like that, we are stuck. There's a system that screens them out.
Okay. I'm gonna give my brief summary, and I'm gonna give you the last word. Okay.
Okay.
I really think that if today in Nigeria, the average person is parasitically and paralyzed by religion. Religion has paralyzed society, and we are working on a system and a framework that we didn't build. And as long as we continue down that path, no level of social innovation and impact will be felt. It has not been felt since we were introduced to democracy, since we were colonized. It will not be felt after. I've watched videos of Nigeria since the 1960s, and I've always wondered, when was Nigeria a good country? Shola, this is the answer I came up with. Nigeria was never a good country that worked for the Black people that occupied it. There was always potholes since pre-1960. There's potholes today. And if we don't scrap that Benz 500 into molten lava so we can build a new, car, a new leadership base with the metal that is forged from it, we are always going to remain in the same exact position. I give you the last word. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's part of what we're talking about. For example, why are traditional rulers in Nigeria, taking a back seat? So colonial masters came in with a framework that we just did copy and paste. We did not contextualize it for our own benefit. We didn't optimize that framework. We have our cultural nuances, we have our community agency, we have our own unique way of life.
Okay.
And we already had our own systems that we were using to govern ourselves and advance our causes, regionally and in different parts of the nation.
Correct.
But then the colonial masters came, trashed all of that, and gave us a framework that that helps them to dominate us and control us for their own benefit.
That's an amazing point. So do you think we can forge ahead under a building that was built by them?
So we already said that that Benz 500 framework does not work for us.
True.
Democracy was borrowed. It's not ours. It's a good idea. It came out from, from the Greeks. you know, but we don't have to copy and paste it. We need to adapt it. We need to pick out the parts of it that's beneficial, that works, you know, and then add our own insight and our own culture, you know, to come up with a total framework that works for us and advances our own cause as a people. And in that framework, it's not possible to exclude the traditional rulers. For example,
Lawrence, I want to thank you so much for this conversation. We're gonna have another conversation like this in no lengthy time. We're gonna disagree on some things and we're gonna agree on some things. I just want to use this opportunity and say thank you for the conversation. We're gonna end it here. And for those of you that love this conversation, like, subscribe, share this video with people that can use and come to the table to have this conversation with us. We appreciate you. And Shola, with that, I want to say thank you so much for joining me